Another thing that can dramatically affect your offer success is your choice of bank. Banks, like anything else, have certain reputations, and most sellers have a strong preference for a local bank over a national bank, which seems funny because a lot of the national banks have large brand names. So the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos, the Quicken Loans, those types of banks do a lot of advertising, and so a lot of buyers will go there first. So why would a seller prefer a local Massachusetts bank as opposed to a national one? The answer is because of experience. What most buyers don't realize is that real estate state by state is completely different. It's almost like a different business. We do things much differently here in Massachusetts than really in most of the rest of the country. We have real estate attorneys where they use title companies. They go right to a standard form purchase and sale. Typically we have an offer to purchase, then a home inspection, then an individually negotiated purchase and sale negotiated by attorneys. When you're talking to someone at a national bank, they're usually not individually licensed, which means you're talking to the equivalent of a teller. I mean, they obviously work with loans all the time, but they're not someone that has the individual knowledge to qualify you for a loan. Because the time frames are different as well, and the deposits is the biggest thing. In other states, you might only have $500 or $1,000 down and at risk during a transaction. So that national bank really doesn't start underwriting your loan until maybe a week or a couple days before the closing. And they send it to Minnesota or North Carolina, and then that person has to look up the Massachusetts regulations and determine if you can get the loan or not. Believe it or not, between 30 and 40% of loans at some of these large national banks don't close. So as you can imagine, a seller would need to take that into account because once they sign your offer, they're tied to you. You can get out of the deal, but the seller cannot. So most sellers will have a strong preference to a Massachusetts bank. The difference with the Massachusetts bank is that they're typically individually licensed if they're not at one of the big national banks. So they have the expertise to qualify you for the loan from the beginning. The loan needs to be underwritten, of course, but the underwriter, instead of being in a different state and not someone they ever talk to, you might sit 2 desks down from the person that you've been dealing with. And they can usually, because they're familiar with our time frames and our risks here, they can usually underwrite and get you an approval for your loan, a final approval, far before a national bank can. So typically several weeks before a closing, your loan is completely done. So something that most buyers don't think about that can really affect the worthiness of your offer is which bank you select. So we strongly suggest that you get a pre-approval from wherever you'd like, but when it's ultimately time to get your loan, you consider a local bank, and obviously you want to get the best terms, so match the terms or beat the terms from any other bank, but a local bank based here in Massachusetts will increase your chances of getting your offer accepted.